We have big breaking news. This is a big story from this weekend. And a 70-year-old man named Dave defeats 82 women in the World Poker Tour ladies event. So in Southern Florida, the World Poker Tour is currently on. And this fella right here, Dave.
She's aspirational.
The ladies no limit hold'em event in Seminole garnered 83 entries with a prize pool of $17,430. Here's this guy's having a good time.
It's just really funny because it's like not sports. It's not like a physical activity. You just went there, just mopped the floor.
But this is true of anybody. Look, men are better than women at chess.
Yep.
Men are better than women at poker. Poker is actually more obvious than chess. Chess, I don't have an explanation for. Maybe it's related to aggression and risk taking. The reason why men tend to beat women in poker is, and not completely. There's some women who are good, like in any other sport. It's because men are more aggressive and
they take bigger risks.
They will play aggressively. They will make bigger bets. They will take bigger risks, and they will get paid out for it. Women are less likely to. So of course, this guy won. He won first place. He gets $5,555. And what they said is, Ebony Kenny, another female, I believe she's a pro poker player, said, maybe Dave was overheard saying, quote, he could pretend to identify as a woman because they allow anything nowadays. And by maybe, I mean 100% now. As we were launching the show, I got word that Dave actually gave a statement to Timcast.com.
Thanks, Dave.
And my understanding is that he was literally protesting that they allow males to compete against females. So I have not actually seen his statement until now. We're going to read it on the show.
Oh, cool.
Dave Hughes responds to winning women's poker event. Hughes said he drove over 5 hours from Orlando to visit a friend competing in the $7 million main event at the Seminole Hard Rock in Florida. Upon arriving in the poker tournament, Hughes wanted to play a hand of poker, but learned the only event available for participation was the ladies no limit hold'em. Quote, I figured why not? The ladies, as you know, are just as fierce, capable, as competitive as the men in poker and smell a lot better as well. For the record, I'm 100% against men taking advantage of women in sports where strength and muscle make it quite unfair. As we can all clearly see with men breaking all records set by women in every sport across the board while pretending to be women. It's pathetic and embarrassing that we allow our women to be abused and victimized by this nonsense, and eventually the country will wake up to this and put a stop to it. Our young girls and women who dedicate their lives to playing sports deserve better than that, and the silent majority are starting to speak up. Damn.
Well, it's the worst part of the whole story
Dave's
is
a trailblazer.
The prize was originally $4,125, but because he's a man, they gave him $5,500. Really messed up.
So apparently in the World Series, I think it's the World Series of Poker. I think we may have written this up. I'm not sure if we did. They have a ladies event as well, and it's illegal to bar men from entering a tournament. So in Florida, what they said was they were like, we legally cannot say someone is, based on their sex, not allowed to enter an event. So he's allowed to play. They were just like, we hoped people would honor it. Uh-huh. I think it's the World Series of Poker in Vegas. What they do is it's a $10,000 fee to enter with 90% off if you're female. That's still illegal. They're saying, aha, we found a loophole to discriminate against someone based on sex. Does not work that way. Anybody who wanted to sue could at the federal level, and they would win. You can't do that. There's a dude who was famous for going around to bars that had ladies' night and filing lawsuits and winning instantly. Summary judgment. You cannot offer cheaper drinks to women based on the fact that they are women. You can't do it. And so this guy would just be like, you can't do it. I'm suing. I win. Couple grand. But good on this guy for speaking out.
That guy ruined ladies' nights at every bar. Now the women aren't showing up for cheaper drinks.
They were putting bounties on him. So other players, a bounty is a financial incentive to knock a player out of the game. So if you were to beat him and take all his chips, you would get paid extra by someone else. Didn't work. He won. He actually won. Now, do you think, let me ask you, this random guy who wasn't planning on entering the tournament, who just drove up there on a whim to watch his friend play, he still beat all the women who actually showed up to compete in this tournament?
I don't think it's that surprising.
Yeah.
Honestly. I mean, men take bigger risks. That seems like part of the fun of testosterone.
It's science.
It's like there's a little bit of fearlessness there.
Small brain women.
I don't think it's that. I wouldn't say small brain. But
well, you could, and it'd be fun to say.
Well, there's like a whole IQ thing where more women are in the
average
middle than in the
right
on either
the greater
end.
male variance hypothesis.
I think it's probably the aggressiveness is the risk taking and stuff, whereas men are more prone to take risk.
Well, every time I have a friend that I've gone to casinos with, and every time we've gone together, like he takes big risks and I take like no risks, and he makes a lot of money and I end up losing $80 or whatever. And he's like, "Oh, you need to take risks, And I'm like, "Oh, but it's my money."
It's just longer time.
So
I suck at it.
This is this guy Dave
I
said.
take some risks, but
He said,
not
quote,
these kind. Not with
doubt
my
I'd
money or
ever
my
do it
life."
again, but it sure caused a fuss and created a buzz and a lot of extra prize money for the ladies. Women are every bit as good as men in any game that requires mental skill and wits. He is technically correct.
He ruined it.
And it's the greater male variance hypothesis. What he's saying is, if you probably were to average it out, you would find that the average man and the average woman are probably comparable in general skill in games like poker or chess. The issue is there are substantially more stupid men who suck and competent men who are good because there's greater male variance.
Yep.
So most women fall in the middle. And then I feel bad for women because you know what that means? It means for women, they are more likely to encounter stupid men and smarter men.
Yeah.
So it's just frustrating across the board.
It is
and this
frustrating
is every
across the
time-
board.
Yeah.
Dealing with men as a woman.
That's right.
Well, I'm
it's really
sure.
a pain in the ass.
Look,
Because most of them are dumber than you.
Yes.
And then a lot of them are smarter, but they're
A couple.
Well, it's actually a bell curve. So you have.
I was talking about me personally.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I mean, like the day-to-day interaction for a woman working in an office is probably going to be with the lower end of the bell curve men. And so women are probably experiencing many more stupid men than men experience of women.
Yep.
well, you talk to these male feminists and you try to explain this principle to them. You say men are more likely to be smart or dumb, whereas women are more likely to be average. And they go, "I've never noticed that women seem less intelligent than me." I have bad news, buddy. I have bad news about where you are on that spectrum.
Right.
Whenever a dude's like, "Oh, they're so much smarter than us," I'm like, "Ooh, yeah, that's."
It makes
You
sense.
already said male feminist, so
Yeah,
already
exactly.
he's
It's at that lower end of the bell
But I mean,
Yeah.
it makes sense that dudes that are more aggressive and actually that are smart guys, they're going to be the ones that are going to go out and try to start something on their own. And I'm sure
But we need
women
that.
will too. Yeah,
But
absolutely.
We need that.
Yes.
We need like
but in an
the-
office, it's going to end up with the midwits.
Yeah,
you know?
'cause being in an office is awful.
So a lot of these prominent feminist writers are midwits. And so for those that aren't from,
Like who?
like the women who work at Jezebel and Vice.
Oh, you mean
and-
like Taylor Lorenz and all of these?
They're
type of people?
midwits.
Yeah.
You can go to
Meaning
Media Matters.
They are
and-
slightly
and-
above average in intelligence.
Yeah.
They
And
think
that
they're
means they're going to be
geniuses.
surrounded by a bunch of really dumb men. And then they're going to,
the perfect
like,
socialist.
report that experience. Yeah, you got to understand this too. I'm going to swear, but this is an actual scientific term. So I'm warning everybody. This is the actual academic phrase: sneaky fucker.
Really?
That is not an insult. It is not a gag. It's not a joke.
It could
It's
be,
a
though.
reference
It's a little
to
insulting.
Well, it's a reference to in biology. In species, you have the dominant men, and you have the dominant males and the sneaky fucker males. And the sneaky fucker males will go in the middle of the night in some species and then reproduce under the, they'll sneak in to reproduce while the dominant strong man, who is the authority, is unaware. That's why they're called sneaky fuckers. Male feminists are described similarly in that they are men who will say whatever they think the woman wants to hear in order to get access to reproduction. Then you have the confident, strongman types who win or through confidence and status are attractive to women. So you have the sneaky fucker, and then you have the
Those sneaky fuckers, though, like they're very like you can see that when you look at them.
Not when you're on
But hold
birth control.
Not when you're a male feminist. Not when
like,
you no
this is
not
not a
not
good
when you're a
guy.
feminist and you're surrounded by nothing but
nothing
sneaky
but
fuckers.
these guys, yeah.
And surprise, surprise, it is no surprise to me that these feminists are writing articles being like, all men are this way. It's
Yep.
like
Yeah.
because you've surrounded yourself with nothing but low quality sneaky fucker men.
Well, and they always project. That's why those guys always go, men just want to use women's bodies. You're
No.
telling me about yourself,
You're just
buddy.
hanging out
You're
with
telling
terror-
me about you.
Yeah,
I'm like,
you
I'm
just hang
pretty,
out with
I'm pretty
awful
sure
people.
Michael Knowles, who married his high school sweetheart and had a family, was intending on more than just having a body of this person after decades.
Exactly. And you and I were speaking about this on my podcast a while ago,
Yeah.
Libby, but what they project in such egregious ways, they say conservatives just want to use women for their bodies and only see them as birthing people, even though they use phrases
That's
like
the
birthing
terms they
person.
use.
And now they're advocating for surrogacy, where you literally just use a woman for her body and see her as a baby maker rather than a person you're committed to.
Yeah, I think everyone knows how I feel about surrogacy. We've been through that.
Indeed. Yeah, it's a. I don't know how you correct for this problem when liberal women surround themselves with male feminists.
You repeal the 19th.
Well, I
I mean, I don't
know
think
about
that changes that women are going to be surrounded by men who are going to say whatever the women want to hear in order to get access to banging them.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a misconception, right, about relationships. I think when you fall in love with your high school sweetheart, you should probably marry them. You should probably marry the person you fall in love with. And
Well,
not wait
that's not what they're
around
saying
and-
nowadays.
No, now
Nowadays
they say
it-
all these other things. I saw this thing on Instagram and it was like, you're going to have 3 great loves in your life. And it went to list them. And it was like the first
Why?
love, right?
This is a
and the-
horoscope?
Great
No,
loves.
this was like it was on Instagram. I don't know. It was the sneaky fucker algorithm is what it was. Okay. Like, is this Instagram thing?
He's like, hey, I'm number 3.
Right?
I just want you to know it's the best one.
But it was like, it went through them all, like all these different things. And it was like, well, why not just get together with the person you fall in love with first?
What's happening is
That's not a bad
feminists
idea.
are working for these corporations like Vice, BuzzFeed, etc., and they're surrounded by sneaky fucker men.
Yes.
And again, I'm not saying it's an
I
insult.
love your loophole.
It's not a loophole. It's an actual
It's a-
biological
I
term.
understand
Like
it's a
biologists,
biological word, sure.
biologists describe this method of reproduction as sneaky fucker.
Well, I appreciate
So
it.
what happens then when these women are sitting around and they're like, what do you think about sexual liberation? Of course the sneaky fuckers would be like, yeah.
It's empowering.
You should totally bang everybody.
Protest
Well, these
topless.
were the-
That'll show us.
In the early days of the feminist
Exactly.
movement, the feminists were not all gung-ho about abortion. It was men who got involved and were like, let's put abortion in. And everyone was like, I guess.
Consequence-free sexual access.
Look,
Let's do
I
that
wanted to
and
hook
kill
up. I didn't want to have a
babies.
family.
Right.
So why didn't you go? It's like Dennis in
It's Always Sunny.
It's Always Sunny when he supports the pro-choice because he's like, I don't have a family. Are you crazy?
Yeah, I've
That's
heard
bold
this
of
from
that show
people
to
too.
do that joke.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.